Welcome to Naturally Mending Mamas, Restoring Wellness After Childbirth. I'm your host, Sarah Nicole, mother of 6 and a holistic women's wellness coach. Motherhood is a beautiful journey, but caring for your well-being at every stage can feel overwhelming. That's why throughout this conference, we're joined by exceptional experts who will share their insights on healing the body, mind, and spirit, helping you restore balance and thrive. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back, everyone. I am really excited today to introduce our guest, Tara Gregorio. She is a certified herbalist trained by Dr. Aviva Ram with over a decade of experience specializing in herbal medicine and holistic strategies to support women through postpartum and beyond. A mother of twins, she's passionate about reading, hiking, and attempting to garden, though only the wild herbs seem to thrive under her care. Welcome, Tara. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Yes. So I'm really excited to share with our viewers some of your expertise. So could you start by sharing your journey into teaching the herbal medicine for postpartum health and what really inspired you to focus on this area?
Absolutely. So, thank you so much for reaching out and having me. I had twins in 2013, an hour and a half apart.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was determined to have a natural birth, and I did. And when I opened my eyes, it was like a war zone after having them. And what I didn't realize is how much depletion there is with childbirth. And you're a mom of many, and each childbirth brings its own challenges. So we actually begged to stay in the hospital. 5 days later, we went home, and I just didn't realize how much of a toll it takes on your body. Prior to having Mario and Eva, I was a Pilates instructor, a fitness instructor. I was a new herbalist. So I was determined to use herbal medicine to heal myself. On top of that, my husband and I opened 2 businesses in the same year. We had twins. So there was little time to go to doctor's appointments. There was little money. And I'm a person that likes to figure things out on my own. So I enrolled to become a certified women's herbal educator with Dr. Viva Ram because I was determined to figure out why I was struggling so much. And the day I stopped breastfeeding, insomnia set in, and that continued for way over 2 years. And additionally, I didn't know it at the time, but I had depression, anger, rage, all of the crazy symptoms we experience. And a lot of it began with that depletion in the beginning, that natural birth, which was amazing. It just, I didn't realize how much nourishment you need after each birth. So I was a beginner herbalist, and then I chose to get certified to learn more because I was desperate to figure out why I was experiencing what I was experiencing.
Right. Yeah, I think that's so true because, yeah, I'm also a mother of 6, and some of my first babies are really close together. I mean, not an hour and a half like yours, right? I didn't have twins, but my first two are only 16 months apart, and I really struggled with that second pregnancy and didn't really understand why until, yeah, later on in my more natural health journey. Yeah, the depletion is a big thing. And especially if we're not like feeling full of nutrients and health even before the pregnancy, then that depletion can take even a bigger toll. Or if you're having twins, right? Like that's 2 babies that need that nourishment. That's a lot of work. And not only through the pregnancy, but through the breastfeeding. So I'm really excited to know, where did you start? Like when you were feeling that insomnia and just depleted, what was the first thing you went to that started giving you relief?
Well, let's start before the relief.
Okay, okay, let's do it.
As a beginner herbalist, in which I see many of my moms do as well, is just take one herb. Like we research online, so we think, okay, I'll take valerian root for sleep, and that's what I did. And it gives some people nightmares, so I had that experience, and it also didn't work. So, the reason it didn't work is the liver is working so hard after each birth, and tinctures aren't the most nourishing way to consume botanicals. So, that was a mistake I made that many moms make is just take one herb, one tincture, and think that's going to help, and it doesn't work. So it's actually taken me a decade to learn why we struggle with insomnia, and it tends to be we have high histamines and low progesterone, along with hidden subconscious thoughts and trauma that gets resurfaced after birth. So we have to look at the nutrient deficiencies first, but we also have to look at any previous trauma that's resurfacing and, have that released, because that's why therapy is so great, because that's what's troubling us when we're trying to close our eyes and go to sleep.
Right. So
And
that's
that
really interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's actually an experience I had is, I had trauma in my 20s and it resurfaced after birth. And it was so weird. I would wake up with panic attacks, anxiety, with this almost like a movie reel of something that happened to me. And of course, I just pushed it down because that's typically what we do. And, I didn't think about therapy. My late husband was against it, and it just wasn't even a thought of mine. But later, my husband passed away, and the first thing I did was run to therapy, and that image resurfaced again. So, this is an example of, yes, the herbs are helpful, but we have to take a full picture of what is going on with the woman's health, and, is there previous trauma that needs to be addressed? And therapy can do wonders for women struggling. Absolutely.
Right. I love that you bring that up and what a journey you've been on. Like that's so much to walk through,
Yeah.
but beautiful that you've found so many like natural answers to help you. And that really, I feel like shows to any of our viewers, whatever they're going through, there's so many different journeys, but there's help along the way. And I love that you brought that therapy in. And so did you feel that that therapy combined with your herbal medicine and knowledge is really what helped bring you the healing then?
Absolutely. I mean, the therapy, I did many kinds, but EMDR, I don't know if you've heard of
Mhm.
that. It
Yeah.
has to do with your eyes. So you're speaking to a therapist as your eyes are moving across, it was virtually too, across the
Mhm.
screen, and your subconscious thoughts just pop up, and you're like, where did that come from? And then, their shaking might happen, crying, like it comes out in your body, right? So that release was one step of healing.
Right.
There's many layers of healing, and that was one piece of the puzzle. Another one I did was called Primal Trust, which combines many different therapies together, which is amazing. And the biggest change I learned from Dr. Kat was, your thoughts, these intrusive thoughts are being stored in your body, creating pain, trauma. And the more we can change these thoughts that we don't even know are happening to us, then we can move forward and heal. One other therapy would be, women do ask me, where do I turn to? Who do I ask? Would be IFS, the family part system. So
Yes.
really diving into, what happened to you as a child, because your children trigger you. I'm sure you
Mhm.
noticed this.
Yep.
They trigger you, they trigger your partner, and it's really important that we are able to manage that, and their moods, of course, as they grow older.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of those different areas of therapy because that can be really helpful combined with the physical stuff that we're doing. So I like how you shared about tinctures. I'm very interested in that because I also collect wild herbs and make tinctures. And I feel like the tinctures are the easiest for me, right? They last forever, right? Because they're preserved in that alcohol and they're just easy to take. but you said that sometimes that's not the best for new moms. And so what would you recommend as that maybe first start if the tincture isn't working the best?
Yeah, well, if it's made with alcohol, right?
Mhm.
That's one piece of the puzzle. I mean, that's the best way to make most tinctures is with alcohol and water. But again, if a woman's liver is struggling, then it's not the best medicine. So teas, herbal teas are the most nourishing. So for example, in Croatia, the first thing they give a new mom is a cup of chamomile tea. And that is a ritual that's in their traditions. So when we're looking at nutrition, we want to look at the herbal teas that are providing vitamins and minerals and nourishing mom. And the tinctures are amazing, but if they're not working, we need to look at why. For example, ashwagandha is huge right now. The tincture, you asked about insomnia, but the ashwagandha tincture helped me break through depression, but it wasn't enough. And later in life, I learned that the supplement or the powder form is a bit more medicinal. It also provides more iron to women who are depleted in iron. So, there's different ways to use the herbs, and teas tend to be the most nourishing, a high quality supplement if that's, appropriate for the herb, and then tinctures as well. I also love homeopathic medicine. It's been really pivotal in my life and raising children as well, raising twins. It's really great.
Okay, awesome. So that tea is just a good go-to then, right? For women to start is finding. And how do we find like a good quality tea? Could you give any advice on that?
I actually buy from Mountain Rose Herbs, which I think is closer to you. I think it's,
Uh-huh.
West Coast.
Yes.
There are some in the New York area, like Jean's Greens or downtown. They get a good supply too. I'm forgetting the name right now, but you want companies that test their products, that are looking for heavy metals and molds. You want companies that test it's the right botanical, because sometimes you would purchase something and it's not actually what's said on the packaging, which is where a lot of the fear of herbs come from, because someone gets sick from taking one herb, but sometimes it's not even the herb that's in the bottle or in the package. Traditional medicinals for tea is amazing. So, we're looking at more organic herbs that are tested, and the high, people used to say high quality, herbs or supplements. When we're talking about supplements, liquid might be better for you to digest than say a pill form. So
Okay.
we have to look at your digestion, look at the mom and what's easiest for her, right? So yeah, tinctures are easiest for a mom of many. Making a cup of tea is quite tedious, and to store the herbs, I get it, is a lot. But there is a very medicinal piece and a nice ritual of making a cup of tea and enjoying that cup of tea.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And tea is something I've started to bring more into my daily routine. It's something I didn't enjoy for a long time, but I've
Right?
acquired the taste just through practice.
Yeah.
Yes, and I also love mountain rose herbs. Another one that I use is Azure Standard, and they are actually a delivery food co-op, and they are based, out of Oregon, and
Yeah.
they have very high standards for the products that they carry. And so I think that would be another great option as moms are looking for those good sources because, yeah, mold and heavy metals can be a huge problem in some of these herbs and any foods that we're consuming. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. One more thing, we tend to sometimes the product doesn't work for us. And I don't know if you've done this, but we throw it away. We're like, okay, it
Mhm.
doesn't work, so let's
Yeah.
throw it away. So what I suggest to my moms, my clients, is just tuck it in the back of the cupboard and make a note why it didn't work. Because you might in a few months from now want to use it and realize that you threw it away thinking it doesn't work, when actually maybe you were taking it incorrectly or not enough, or so I wouldn't throw the things away. Tinctures can last a very, very long time.
Oh, I love that. And I've done that before too, where I'm just like, well, it's not working right now, but maybe later it does because I'm in a different place or I have more education on how to use it. So, what a great idea. Thank you for bringing that up. All right. So, let's go a little bit more into that mental health. So, what are the common misconceptions that new mothers have? Okay, hold on. All right. I'm just going to cut this part out. My kids came and left phones all over, apparently. I
Oh
didn't.
my gosh.
So let me just hide these away.
Yep. My kids have the day off. I had to like,
Yeah, I'm like, I put it on airplane mode, but
not enough.
didn't work. So, anyways, okay. So, Tara, what are some of the common misconceptions that new mothers have about postpartum anxiety and depression? Because I know this is a big one that so many new moms deal with.
Yeah, it's a great question because so many moms feel shame, embarrassed. They're taking it so personally, but remember, we're not meant to do this alone. We're not meant to raise our kids all alone. And I don't know about you, but most of us worked before kids, and the act of giving that up and staying home with them is a huge transition. Matrescence, the act of becoming a mother. So I think we just maybe don't know enough or not surrounded by enough support. So many moms are ashamed, embarrassed, don't want to ask for help, don't know who to ask for help, or they go to their doctor and all they do is prescribe medication. And that is certainly a need for some women, in which we can dive into a bit, but it doesn't work for all women. So there's so many struggles, which is why I continue to teach this and keep doing it, trying to reach moms because it's not their fault. It's many other reasons, like we talked about, these subconscious thoughts, intrusive thoughts, this nutrient depletion. There's many other factors in why we're struggling, and we need to break through that and support our new moms because they need it the most.
Right. Yeah, I feel like motherhood, it's such a big life transition that it just brings up a lot. And I
Mm.
feel like some moms feel like, the becoming a mother is going to deplete them, make them sicker and weaker, and they just have to deal with it instead of looking at it as a time for some of the stuff to come up so that it can be healed. And that's really what this conference is about, and bringing in this idea that stuff's going to come up, but there's so much support to be able to heal, and you don't have to live with that anxiety and depression forever. So, how can herbal medicine support mothers experiencing insomnia during the postpartum period? I know we touched on that a little bit before, but what in particular did you do to really help get support in that area?
Right. And I remember a family member saying, "You'll never sleep again." And I was like,
Right.
whoa. But honestly, it did take me about a good decade to get my sleep under control because there was so much trauma that happened in our lives. And 2020 was a huge piece of that due to my husband passing away. But back to insomnia, postpartum insomnia tends to be, like I said before, high histamine, low progesterone, but also there's a concept which I want to dive into more. Dr. Pompa suggests that there's a heavy metal toxicity release that happens postpartum and then again in perimenopause. So if you have had exposure to heavy metals prior to pregnancy, it's possible that it is being released in the postpartum time, and you would get heavy metal symptoms like shaking, sweating, brain fog, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but all these symptoms, and it makes it so confusing because our doctors are not testing for heavy metals. For example, women with postpartum depression, some women could have copper 4 times another woman at the postpartum time, creating postpartum depression. So, we really need to dig into the woman's blood work and see what's going on. And then additionally, lower her histamines and work on raising progesterone when she's not sleeping. as well as, uncovering those unconscious thoughts that are being pressed down, you know.
Right.
But for herbs particularly, I suggest the One Daily Tea blend, which is stinging nettles and milky oat tops that sit for 4 hours, 4 to 8 hours. So it's a long medicinal blend. And the stinging nettles are the number one antihistamine. So not only is it providing vitamins and minerals to the body, it's also lowering histamines, which is a huge piece of being able to sleep at nighttime. And then at night, the mom could take things like passion flower. I mean, chamomile might not be strong enough. She could do tinctures of valerian, and what else? Like lemon balm would be okay too. So there's many herbs to help us calm down at night, but again, we really need to look at the hormonal piece, which is not being addressed either in the doctor's office.
Right. Yeah, that's very true because there is such an underlying cause. And if we can use the support of these wonderful plants along with, yeah, the therapy or helping, support the hormones. And I know there's a lot of herbs that do that as well. Then we're going to see so many of these mamas having much better success in their healing. And I
And
like,
sorry, ashwagandha is great for sleep, the powdered form, especially if the tincture is not working for you. Except if you have hyperthyroidism, it might not be the best, but otherwise it's known to have the strength of stallions because I believe it's helping us sleep thoroughly. So then we wake up, with lots of energy.
right. Yes. And that's why I'm so glad you're bringing up sleep because I feel like this is foundational to everything else working and especially even that mental health. Like if we don't have the proper rest, then it's so hard to keep the proper mental state. So yeah, very important. And I love how you shared different options that could help because each woman is going to look a little bit different for sure. So all right. So or in your experience, what are the most effective, like holistic strategies for managing the postpartum depression? Coming back to that mental health, right? We've kind of addressed the sleeping. So how can we help with that depression that so many moms feel right after birth?
Yeah, that's a big deal. It's huge. So I don't want to discredit medication because many women have taken medication and need it. I don't know if you follow Gabby Bernstein, but she was raised with homeopathic medicine and she came out and was like, I needed medication after the birth of her child. So there is a place for it. The medication will actually work better when you fill your nutrient gaps. So when we look at your vitamin D levels, your iron levels, your vitamin B, do you have the MTHFR gene? This is a huge one and why I believe we struggle with anxiety and depression after birth. That means you would need folate, not folic acid. And this is a huge deal because for the past decade we've been told to take folic acid for our pregnancies, but if you have the MTHFR gene, you have a harder time processing that particular vitamin and other vitamins. So the for postpartum depression, what's been proven is exercise helps. But if you think about it, I had twins and I owned a Pilates studio. I stopped moving my body and exercising and wasn't able to sweat. So if you don't have enough energy to exercise, think of sweating first. Hot baths, saunas, you're trying to move any toxins out of your body. But getting back to exercise, 2 to 3 times a week for 30 minutes has been proven to help women with postpartum depression. And then with major depression, you want to add more time, 40, 50 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week. So we got to start moving our body, which is very hard. Additionally, St. John's wort is amazing. It's the number one antidepressant, but it also is supporting liver. So this could be a reason that it's helping moms with postpartum depression because if you tend to be estrogen dominant, the St. John's wort will help the excessive xenoestrogens or estrogens move out of the body. So, we want to look at exercise, your nutrients. Is your iron low? the herbs, St. John's wort, and there's many others. Albizia was another one that helped me a ton. It's known as the happiness bark. And then, therapy. So we've got to get comfortable asking for help. And if the first therapist doesn't help us, we got to keep pushing forward and making our lives a priority, not just our children, right?
Right.
I
Yes.
remember everybody would pull the chairs out for me when I was pregnant with twins, and then it was like, boop,
Yep.
it just, how's the baby? How are the babies? But one thing I must say is at the 6-week appointment, I think we should demand blood work. We should demand our vitamin D levels checked, our iron levels checked, our B. So if you are not feeling well, please demand those blood checks, a full thyroid panel. Your thyroid can go from hyper to hypothyroid in 3 to 6 months. And it's just not happening. My 6-week appointment, she's like, "You're fine." I'm like, "I'm way from fine," you know. And I also had a diastasis recti, which is an abdominal separation, and she didn't detect it. So there's so many things being missed, and it's just, I want women to know that there is hope and there is healing, and your body has a great capacity to heal. It's not, this is not your fault, basically.
Right. Yes, I love that. Yeah, giving women the empowerment to take their health into their own hands. And it's okay if somebody says you're fine right at that 6-week appointment and you're not, like yourself better. And yeah, try something else. I like how you said that. Try somebody else. Find somebody who will listen. And eventually you'll find what works for you because we are all so different and need different things. But I feel like a lot of what you're sharing, these different experience of anxiety, depression, insomnia, it seems like they all kind of come back to detoxing. So our bodies are trying to detox and we're needing to support. Does that sound right?
Yeah. So for example, depression, they say, I don't know if it's still known, but they used to say it's a chemical problem, right? Well, I like to say it's a methylation problem now after everything I've been through. And that comes back to your genes and how you're processing foods and the lifestyle that you're living. And yeah, I remember a doctor saying, you don't have to do a liver detox. You don't have to do a detox, but I almost feel like when you're done breastfeeding, you do. You do have to detox, but you also have to nourish. So the nourishment first, and then as your child gets older and you get more energy, yes, the detox. It's not so much detox, it's sweating, it's consuming the right nutrients. It's a basic lifestyle that we're not leading anymore. Getting sunshine, putting our feet in the grass, going outside. It's like, it's really just basic things that are just not happening. And it's so simple. It's just, it's the way of our world right now, which is challenging.
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree. It's those simple things that we've lost touch with that are our detox methods and routes that we have to get back in touch with. So beautifully said.
And thinking about that, one of the therapies that helps with depression is red light therapy or just light therapy. Like it used to be the Loom box, I think it's called, but it was light therapy, and now we've moved on to red light therapy. So that's another method helping to release cortisol and help to heal depression that is natural. If you can, afford a red light therapy or go to a space, that could be extremely healing.
Yes. Yeah. Light is so healing and sunlight too. I know it's harder in the winter, but take
Yeah.
advantage in the summer as much as you can, building up that vitamin D for sure. So I want to hit on one more thing before we close. So I know on your Instagram page you shared some go-to herbs for brain fog, and I know so many mothers experience the brain fog on a regular basis as they learn to like balance their sleep and just their changing lifestyle. So can you share just a couple of your favorite herbs for brain fog and how viewers can use them for relief?
Yeah. So we have to backtrack a little bit, right? Because we're often looking for one thing to cure us. So I don't want to just give you the herbs because often when it comes to brain fog, it could be due to yeast in the body. So high yeast could be a variety of things, but one way you would know you have high yeast is maybe your infant or your child has a white tongue, maybe your partner does, or maybe you do, but women typically tend to have more itchiness and uncomfortableness. So yeast can be one of the pieces causing this brain fog. Additionally, we talked about the heavy metals and poor digestion. So again, I'm not a functional medicine doctor, but I do like to look at your symptoms and say, okay, why is this happening? Rather than just giving out botanicals. So, most likely it's yeast or, lack of sleep, of course. And then next step we would look at is what's called nootropics. So herbs that open the blood vessels and bring blood flow to the body. So my favorite for that would be ginkgo or gotu kola. Ashwagandha could help as well, and green tea could help as well. So those for any age, but in the postpartum time, those are things that you could explore to help break through the brain fog. But again, I'd look at a diet, sugar, excessive sugar, right? And really dig in. I just did a presentation on yeast and the new methods of healing yeast infections. So really look at that, and that could help clear up the brain fog.
That's wonderful. Yes, I love how you're really bringing in, okay, what is the cause and what is the support together? Because, yeah, if we're extremely sleep deprived or we're not sleeping well at night, then it's going to be hard to clear that brain fog without addressing both and bringing in that support of the herbs. So, yes, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Is there any last bit of advice for our viewers that you would like to share with them?
I just want them to know their body can heal. Like there's been so many women that sometimes they find me through just heart palpitations, and the healthcare provider's idea is to send you to a cardiologist. But, so they started drinking the one daily tea blend with the stinging nettles and the heart palpitations went away. So there's these simple basic things that we can bring into your life to help your body heal. And I just want women to know that you have a great capacity to heal, in choosing your own path, whatever that means for you, you will find the answer if you keep pushing forward and ask for help. It's not a weakness to ask for help.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah, it's really a strength, I believe, right? It's meaning you care about yourself, but you care about your children, being there for them. So
Yeah.
thank you. So Tara, where can our viewers find more of your work and expertise?
Well, I love YouTube. So YouTube mainly Tara J. Gregorio, and Instagram as well, Tara J. Gregorio. And then my website, Tara Gregorio without the J.
Perfect. And then Tara has an amazing freebie for you guys, her postpartum recovery roadmap. Would you like to share just a little bit about that? And we'll link that for everybody too.
Yeah, so the biggest question when you're struggling is what do I do? Where do I start? So these are the first 5 steps to take when you're not feeling like yourself. The root cause strategy, the herbal medicine strategy of healing your body. So if you're a natural mom and want to get to the root cause, then the postpartum recovery roadmap can help. It helps with, the basis for anxiety, depression, rage, and insomnia come from these deficiencies happening. So these are the first 5 steps, and you can grab that.
Perfect. Yes. And so we'll link her freebie and all of her socials right here in the video in your email so you can find Tara. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your beautiful expertise with our moms today. And I know it's going to be such a benefit for them in their healing journey. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll see you guys all next time. Thank you.